Welcome to Journeys Through Sociology, a series of interviews with the Executive Committee of the International Sociological Association. I'm Lale Bebohanyan, and our guest today is Dr. Sari Hanafi, who is joining us from Beirut, Lebanon. Dr. Hanafi is an associate professor of sociology at the American University of Beirut. He earned his PhD in sociology from the School for Advanced Studies in the Social Sciences in France. He is currently on the executive committee of the Arab Association of Sociology, as well as the editor of the Arab Journal of Sociology. Dr. Hanafi has done research on issues relating to migration and the sociology of knowledge, but he is most well known for his work on the experiences of Palestinians in the occupied territories and in refugee camps, particularly in Lebanon. And beyond his academic work, Dr. Hanafi has also spent many years working directly on humanitarian projects in Palestinian refugee camps, having worked as a consultant for the PLO, the World Bank, and various agencies of the UN. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Hanafi.
Welcome.
Thank you. It's wonderful to have you with us. And before we really begin delving into the history of your journey through sociology, I'd like to start by first getting a little bit of a sense of the kind of work that you're currently engaged in. So what would you say in terms of the various things that you're involved with right now? What aspect of your work right now are you most excited about?
Well, maybe I may start by saying recently I moved the last 5 years to political sociology. I was very interested in spaces of exception. I mean, being first at living in Jerusalem and Palestinian territories, I lived this humiliation of being in an occupied place. So with some of my anti-colonial Israeli friends, specifically Adi Ophir and Michal Giovanni, we try to understand how Israeli grew up with these territories and create this double regime of separation and colonization. And we end up by editing a big volume on what we call the power of inclusive exclusion, anatomy of the Israeli rules in the occupied Palestinian territories. So, in fact, this experience of being in Palestinian territories really drive me to move from sociology of migration, if you like, per se, to political sociology and to think this is a space of exception and the use of biopolitics. And then I came to Lebanon and to realize that the refugee camps in Lebanon is as excluded as occupied Palestinian territories. So myself, I grew up in a refugee camp. In Syria, Yarmouk camp, I would consider this camp as 5 stars camp compared to what I saw in Lebanon. So this is why I quickly get interested in these camps and theorize them as a space of exception.
So can you actually, to interrupt you for a second, Dr. Hanafi, I know that this theory, this concept of a space of exception is very central to your work. Can you just give us a sense, somewhat concretely, what that means for Palestinians? What does it mean to live in a state or a space of exception?
Yeah, it's first, if you like, inspired by Michel Foucault and Giorgio Agamben and their theorization of the sovereign, the capacity of sovereign to proclaim the state of exception. I mean, to rule not by the rule of law, but by the law of rule. So I realized how the Lebanese authorities are excluding the Palestinians spatially into into area where they don't have the right, the minimal rights. So they are bare life without political existence, without even a human existence for Lebanese, and there is no urban regulation for these camps. So you transform this space into slums. And you exclude them legally, no right to work, no right to own properties. So you end up creating bare life, creating categories which really doesn't count at all, even in a sectarian system where every small sect counts, but not the Palestinians. So to show this. How the realm of law become a realm of exclusion and not inclusion. How even with so-called rules of democracy, of course it's illiberal democracy, it's a sectarian democracy, you end up by accepting to create a category without any rights, without political existence. Yeah.
So I think it's quite clear in your case, Dr. Hanafi, that there's a very clear connection between your sociology and your biography, right? Between the kind of work that you do and your own experiences as a Palestinian, as you say, having been raised in a refugee camp. So when you look back over the path that brought you to where you are today as a professor of sociology, what would you say are perhaps three of the reasons that you were drawn to sociology?
Well, I grew up in a refugee camps, as I said, in a lower middle class family, so nostalgic, or doubly nostalgic, if you like, nostalgic to Palestine, and in the same time, it's if you like, living also in a sense of nostalgia to the past, to the glorious time of the Prophet and the Islam and things like that. So this doubly create a cognitive dissonance for me. Let me tell you a little bit about my dad. I mean, I grew up in a wonderful family where father worked double work, school teacher and assistant pharmacist, just to cope with the need of a family in a refugee camps. We are des héritiers. We came just without any means. So in the same time, he was so bitter, anxious about everything. He always eat food without warming it, because what is important for him is to filling the stomach, to cope with the hunger more than other things. I feel that my dad, his watch, and my mother, I would say, stopped in 1948 in the time of the exodus from Palestine, and the time they lived in Syria, in Yarmouk camps, it was a supplement that, if you like, supplement in their melancholic existence. So this is how I felt my present. I mean, in dissonance with what I saw in Syrian society. In the same time, living in conservative family, it's also, I felt that there is something wrong. How we think our modernity, about our relation to an urban life that we live in Damascus. So this is drive me, if you like, as a first factors to go into sociology. But then it's very difficult for a son in refugee camps to go to a risky profession like sociology. and then often to become merely as a teacher in a school. I have a good grade allow me to enter to engineering, all sorts of engineering, and so I cannot afford to go directly to sociology. So I entered to faculty of civil engineering. And my parents were so happy because I would become the first engineers in my family. And after 2 years, I decided, I said, no, I cannot continue. So I renew my baccalaureate, and I did a double major, doing civil engineering and sociology at the same time. And in that time, it's not allowed because it's a public school, so you don't pay. And I end up by having civil engineering to satisfy my mother. My mother used to say to her neighbors that my sons are engineers, and she was happy to hear that. So, and I was happy to that she is happy, but in the same time, I want somehow to change the world with something more radical than civil engineering. So I end up changing my profession after finishing my degree in civil engineering and go to sociology, and then of course went to France and for doing my PhD. So if you like, it's really this desire for me to be active in the society which drive me to become a sociologist.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's obvious that any sociologist, Dr. Hanafi, would face a range of obstacles in doing their work. But clearly, as we already begin to get a sense as you tell this story, in your case, I would imagine that there have been some severe, some quite serious challenges in your way. And particularly since, given that you work on Palestinians, in the occupied territories and refugee camps, I would imagine that all of these things in many ways make your work as a sociologist perhaps all the bit more difficult or challenging. So what would you say in your efforts as a sociologist, what have been some of the most significant challenges that you've faced?
Yes, this is, I think, is a very interesting question. Thank you to raise it. Well, I would say the first is the desire to be, if you like, to converse globally with my peers in the discipline, in the sociology, but in the same time to be relevant locally. Mm-hmm. If you like, my recent research project on social production of knowledge, I was, and actually before, I was very interested in how the university system produce different elites within the society. And I realized with my fieldwork I did in different location here in Middle East, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Egypt, and Palestinian territories, and Jordan, that you have two sort of elites in each nation state, and they don't converse with each other. Mm. Those who are known globally but unknown locally, what I call those who publish globally and perish locally, and those who publish locally and perish globally. So if you like, the first challenge, how really to cope with this dilemma and to end up by thinking seriously how to be relevant in your society, but also taking into account the rigorous requirements of a discipline. So I would say this is really my first challenge. This is, for instance, I used to publish in French, and now because I am in American University of Beirut, and to be promoted, I should publish in English. So I end up by paying from my pocket to translate everything into Arabic. And of course, this is often is not easy. It's a question of how to make what I am doing interesting or simplifying to be able to talk with the large public. Mm-hmm. So I would say this is the second challenge I have, which is the relationship between a professional sociology, to talk like Michael Browe, and the public and policy sociology. Mm-hmm. So, and here I face really a lot of problem, because I used to publish a lot of things on Palestinian refugees and many things, but in English and in French. And now it's in Arabic, and the community read it. And they not always understand what I am saying. Frankly, I'm not a good if you like, scholar to simplify what I would say. Let me give you an example. I was criticized by some Palestinians that I use the word integration, that the Palestinians in Lebanon should be integrated, while they have the desire to right of return to the place of origin in Palestine, that they should be integrated in host society. And the word integration for them, it's like it's a negation of the right of return. Even last year, when I was one of the main organizers of a big march for civil and socio-economic rights of the Palestinians in Lebanon. Hamas, for instance, movement, they refused to join this march because they hear me giving an interview in a TV talking about the Marche de Beurre. This is the second generation in France, and how they did their march to improve their legal status in France. And Osama Hamdan told me clearly, say, look, if you compare us to the second generation of Haraki or of North African in France, it means that you want us to settle here in Lebanon. I told him, look, if you will apply literally every time we do analogy, say this, exactly this, it means that you prohibited us to use any method of social sciences. So just this is, I am bringing this example to show you that how really challenging this, if you like, this public moment of any professional research, and how one should cope with.
It's fascinating because, you know, Dr. Hanafi, it's not, I think that many sociologists kind of struggle with this challenge of attempting to bridge this gap between professional and public, and learn to speak to publics, and kind of learn to, you know, interpret their work in different ways. But you also bring up the quite crucial point that in doing that, it also raises oftentimes lots of quite, you know, heavy political issues. When we take our work out into the public realm like that, the political implications of our work become all the more important in that context, and that seems like that would be quite a difficult challenge.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. And I would say that the third challenge is, if you allow me, it's what I call the mythology of uniqueness in the region, and where I live, if you like, being in Palestinian territories at sometimes, or in Lebanon or in Syria, where I grew up. This mythology of uniqueness hinder really us to be universalistic, to think how to conduct a field work with a comparative perspective and approaches and so on. So every time, for instance, while I am working about the Palestinian refugees and try to understand how Palestinian community become, if you like, a diasporic community, try to cope with or incorporate itself in the host society. I have people, especially the political commissar of the community, say, look, yeah, but there is a unique case. That we are unique cases, okay? The same thing when I confront many of Lebanese scholars. Sometimes they talk about Lebanon as a unique case. I converse with some scholars, say no. You should throw all your theories when you arrive to Beirut airport. And this is really, I hear it, and it's a funny that it's exactly the same metaphor have been used by two Israeli colleagues, sociologists.
So I'm sorry, the metaphor is that you should do away with your theory as soon as you get to Beirut airport?
Yes,
okay.
Because it's a unique place. It's a place of a heavy specificity that
so that theory doesn't apply.
Yeah, does apply. And the same thing someone told me, and that when I arrived to Tel Aviv airport, something like that. So I think this is if you like, and of course when we talk about mythology of uniqueness, I should evoke the authoritarianism in the Arab world, and especially maybe it's very important to talk about it now when. We are in the heart of the Arab revolutions and all this beautiful spring we live in, a protracted spring, if I would say. So these regime often they if you like. Try to convince their people, even their scientific community that no, we cannot afford to have a democracy. We should look look to the national condition, the fact that there is a colonial project, the Israeli project. That all this is why we are very specific. And we should postpone talking about freedom, about the social justice, and so on. Mm-hmm. So if you like, this is really the impact so much my enterprise. I can give even many examples how difficult to conduct field work in the condition of authoritarian states.
Which I think, I mean, in contrast to this assumption of uniqueness, I think that actually one of the most powerful things about your work, Dr. Hanafi, is the way that you're able to take observations that emerge originally in occupied territories and in refugee camps about the ways in which those territories are governed as spaces of exception outside of the rule of law, and to take that observation and in fact see the way that it manifests in other parts of the Arab world, and the way that you've applied some of the categories and concepts that you've developed in the context of Palestinian areas, and seen their applicability actually in other parts of the Arab world.
Yes, I think you are absolutely right. I think when we talk about state of exception, and biopolitics is unfortunately used as well as by the colonial Israeli state and by the many Arab authoritarian regimes. I would say they mirror each other, they learn from each other. I surprised, for instance, when I arrived to Lebanon 5 years ago, or 7 years now ago, I told a friend that I cannot bear anymore the political demography, if you like, every time the Israeli is talking about demography, and we cannot do this and that because we are afraid from the demography, and suddenly I discovered that Lebanon is also a demographic state, not democratic state. Mm-hmm. So both Israel and Lebanon are demographic states. So I think, unfortunately, there is a lot of processes mirror each other, if you like, between Israel and the authoritarian regimes in the Arab world.
So, Dr. Hanafi, we have time for one final question, and I would like to ask you, if you had not become a sociologist, what do you think that you might have liked to have done?
Well, I really, sometimes I regret not to be an urbanist. I am so sensitive to spaces, and if you like, even when I enter the civil engineers, I have some dreams to improve the life of city dwellers, and if you like, to make more cosmopolitan spaces, more multiculturalist, to create a space where you have a social justice. So, if you like, every time I saw my son, he's 14 years old, I say, my son, can you do architecture? Because I have a lot of ideas. So I cannot do it. I cannot convert myself again from engineering to sociology and then to architecture. So can you do it? And then we work as a team.
Now you've become like your mother, and you wish for him to be an engineer or an architect. Yes.
Yeah. So
yes.
So this is if you like how well, if there is another life to live, maybe I will do this.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Hanafi. It's been a fascinating discussion. We really appreciate you taking the time to be with us.
Really pleasure for me, and thank you, Lali.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
This has been another journey through sociology with Dr. Sari Hanafi. Please join us next week when we will be joined by Dr. Robert Van Krieken from Sydney, Australia.